Okay, so I think we're here. I got a message that my audio was removed. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so if you guys are on commenting, let us know. Hello, lovelies. Let us know if you can hear us because we're going to bring in Nikki and we want to make sure it's all working before we bring her in.
Marie is here.
Woo woo! All right, it looks like I'm live on Urban Fantasy Romance. That's awesome. Woo woo! Okay, guys, so we are super excited. We have been looking forward to this for a long, long time. As you guys know, oh, I got a little Maltipoo. She might bark, so you have to forgive me. Snow, come on, we're going live. We're live with Nikki. So we're going to bring her on in a second. Nikki St. Crowe, you guys know her. She's the author of The Hot Vampire Next Door and The Never King and The Demon King, and she's amazing. So without further ado, here she is. Nikki!
Hello.
Hi.
I'm so excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you. You have been like blowing up on Amazon bestsellers, and I was just like tickled pink that you wanted to do this. So thank you. Thanks so much for being here.
Well, you know, I love your group. And we talked about this before, your emoji reviews. I think the very first time I became familiar with you was your emoji reviews. I don't think you had reached out to me yet at that point.
No.
And then I was like, this is great. This woman is full of passion and she loves her books. I'm like, I love these. And then you messaged me and you told me about your group, and I joined, and I, you know, it was obviously very big. I was like, this is great, all this positivity. And then you told me that you had just started it, or like just opened it up. And I was like, oh my gosh, there are like 10,000 people in here from like just 6 months ago. That blew me away. And it's probably your emoji reviews because they're so full of positivity and light.
Oh, thanks. They're a lot of fun. I just, I just started writing. Well, anyone who's following the group, I'll be real quick about this because we're about you. Yeah. But anyone who's been following the group for a while and seeing my posts and me talk and stuff, you know, it was just 15 of my.
That's my favorite thing about the group, is that it's just about, you know, the positivity.
I appreciate, you know, I want it to be a place that like, well, it's positive for everyone, but I also want authors to feel like safe here, you know, like when you're in here looking at your people, I want you to see all this amazing stuff about your books, and it just makes you feel good, you know? So.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you don't need to stroke my ego, but I'm a reader too. So I'm going to be in the group, you know, so it is great that you don't have to be stumbling on something where somebody's like, oh my God, I hated this book so much. This is trash.
yeah. And you want Rex too, right? Like that's what people forget. Authors are people, and they read too, and they want to go to Facebook groups, and they just don't want to have to see bad stuff. They just want to see, oh, this looks great, you know, and then go pick something up. So
yeah.
Anyway,
love over here in the chat.
Oh my goodness,
Rebecca, you're getting some love.
Rebecca is the best. She is.
Well, I want to introduce. I didn't even we were so excited when we brought you in. About Holly. Holly has been a mod with us for a bit now, and she also has. I told you I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to do this. She's a book talker, so she has a really cool. Tell them what your channel is, because it's just so much fun.
It's Holly's Books and Booze, and it is random recipes, book reviews, and a beverage or two.
There you go. So I thought when we planned this out, I thought, oh my gosh, Holly would be just great to bring on here. She's so much fun.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about Holly is, like, I've been fangirling her videos for a while, and I asked her to be a moderator in the group, but I didn't know she was the same person.
Isn't that funny? That happens.
She never promotes herself in the group, and she's always positive. And I reached out to her and I was like, hey, would you be a moderator? And then like, it wasn't until she gave me her picture to post in the group as one of the moderators that I worked it out that she's the same person. And speaking of TikToks, and your TikToks are the bomb. I'm in love with your TikToks, Nikki.
Oh my gosh, yes.
They are amazing. I was showing the one that all the things she said running through my head, that one where you did when you're like singing to it.
Yeah, okay. That was from a while ago, I think. Yeah. The lip syncing ones are a little more difficult, so I don't do them as often.
Yeah. Well, they're good. You're really good at them.
The little snippets, the little teases are really fun.
Well, I'm pretty new to TikTok too. I started in August of last year. And I think around that time is when everybody was talking about book talk really blowing up, and I was already on TikTok as a viewer, and obviously I loved it. You can lose hours on TikTok.
Oh my gosh.
And so I was like, I'll just, get on here as an author and try this out. And I love it. I'm not like super great at being consistent on social media, but TikTok is the one thing that I'm pretty consistent on just because I love it so darn much.
Yeah. Well, it shows. You're very,
Well,
you're
thank
really,
you.
really good. So,
Yeah,
so
your
what
videos
we're
have
gonna
tons of traction.
say again?
I said your videos have tons of traction. It's so cool to like see everybody loving up on an author you love too. So
Yeah.
How do you get your ideas for your TikToks? Like, how do you come up with what you want to do?
Mostly, I mean, obviously they're all almost book stuff now. In the past I did some like skit type stuff. Like there's the one about Hawkeye, and there was another one about Geralt being a daddy. Those ones, like, I loved those ones, and I spent so much time on those, but they don't have a lot of views. For some reason, whenever it's just all the book stuff, the book stuff is my most viral content, and it's just scenes from the books, and I think when you're already in the worlds and you're building up the tension in those scenes, you can kind of easily put that into a TikTok. You know how to build the tension in the TikTok itself because you've already written it and you can feel the emotions or whatever. So that's really it is just scenes from the book, sometimes in different ways. There's a lot of repurposing of content on TikTok. So yeah, it's primarily just book stuff at this point. For some reason, well, I mean, not for some reason, Peter Pan and The Never King are my most viral stuff because it's kind of salacious.
It's so good. Well, and the fairy tale retellings are so hot right now too. It's genius that yours dropped at the time it did. And it's been number one for a while, right? I don't know if I didn't check it today, but it was number one for a long time, and then number two for a while on several lists.
I think it's still number one on a couple of categories. I see TikTok, the magic of it is that sometimes old stuff will just gain traction for some reason overnight. And I had an old post, it was maybe in TikTok land, an old post like a week ago. And it, for some reason, went from 100,000 views to 500,000 overnight. So it pushed it back, The Never King, it pushed it back into the top lists. It's still number 3, I think, in paranormal romance.
Wow.
So, but there are a couple of other smaller categories. It's number 1, but it stayed top 100. It's been top 100 since it released, which is mind-blowing, really. I still can't believe it.
Well, I guess in the top 100, right? You've had Hot Vampire Next Door, you've had The Demon King, I know that,
Hot Vampire, yes, was in top 100 in January, primarily because of TikTok too. A couple of viral TikToks, and I mean, smutty vampires are fun too, so I guess people seem to like that as well. I mean, Hot Vampire is kind of like my my ode to the Vampire Diaries and Damon Salvatore. Let's just be real. There's a lot of Damon Salvatore in Bran.
I was gonna say, you're a Damon fan, right?
I am very well. See, I kind of wish Elena didn't have to choose. If I were to rewrite that, that's what it would be. It would be a throuple, and maybe I will someday. I'll do another, not necessarily a Hot Vampire, but I'll do a Damon, Stefan, Elena throuple.
Lydia says that it's awesome that you respond to your fans. She said it's really cool when an author you love reaches out and responds. So
yes, you are so responsive. You're all over our social media.
And as those accounts grow, I think I probably will have to figure out a balance to responding to all of them versus not being online, so I could write.
Yeah.
I haven't quite figured out that balance yet because I love being online and I love talking to people and responding to comments. So I do try to. It is something that I'm very intentional about. Instagram and TikTok are probably the best places. Well, and obviously my Facebook group too. I try to be as responsive as I can be.
And it's doing pretty good. Like, it's a relatively new group, and you have a decent number of members in a pretty short time.
Well, I only have it because of you.
Tell anyone that.
Well,
I myself up there. Oh my goodness.
I mean, let's face it. I don't remember how this happened. I don't remember if you mentioned it to me or if I reached out to you. But I was
You
like,
messaged
on
me.
the
You messaged
I
me.
messaged you. I was on the fence about it because I had already felt like I was, like I had too many things on social media. Like I'm like, why do I also need a Facebook group? And then you're like, here's why. And then it was a long conversation of all the great things about Facebook groups. And I was like, okay, I'll give this a try. And it's been awesome. I love it. I mean, it's a lot of fun. And I'm glad that I have another place to be, with readers. So thank you.
Aww.
I really appreciate all of the tips that you shared with me as well.
Aww.
There was like a bullet, a list, and it was very helpful.
Well, I mean, I'm a huge fan. Like when I opened up Hot Vampire Next Door, it was like a Friday night, and we have a mod chat where we're all like, goofing off on. And I was like, oh my gosh, this book is so amazing, you guys. And just like, and then I started posting about it everywhere, and it just blew up. Like, there's so many people in our group that are just huge fans of yours, I just like it. And I love the cover too. Like, that's what got my attention when I was looking at the bestseller.
Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. I actually designed that cover too. I've designed all of my covers except for Demon King. Those ones I hired out, I think. Yeah. The rest of them are all mine.
They're asking for more doorway scenes.
Oh my gosh.
Like the one with Jesse where Bran hasn't been invited in.
Top tier. Right there.
So let me say this real quick before we get into it. So so this chat we will talk about Hot Vampire Next Door 1 and 2. Those books, not past, right? Because she has Kindle Vella, so she has episodes she released that's past season 2. So we're not talking about those. We're only talking about what you can get on KU. And I do actually want to talk to you about Bella too a little bit, let you explain that to everyone. And then the Never King, right? So we can do any spoilers. So guys, if you haven't read those, you may hear spoilers in chat. Now here's the good news. The books are not very long. So read them tomorrow and come back on and watch the chat. They're amazing, right? So anyways, can you talk about Bella real quick, and then we'll get to the and explain
so it's pretty brand new. It launched in July of last year, and I specifically remember because obviously when we hear about these things that are coming up in the author spheres, we're all talking about them. Is it going to be worth it? Is it going to stick around? So I had been hearing about it for a couple of months, and I had Hot Vampire sitting like in my computer desk, my computer drawer, basically. And at the time, it was just called Midnight Harbor, and I didn't really have a plan for it. It had maybe like 15,000 words. But I obviously loved Bran, and I wanted to do something with him. So when I heard about Bella, I was like, I'm just going to throw this out here and kind of see where it goes. And so it's a platform for serial fiction, kind of like Wattpad or Radish, if you're familiar with Radish. And episodes release depends on the author's schedule. I release 1 episode a week. And so it, I love the short form. I love that I can write an episode, today, release it tomorrow. We can all be talking about it. We can all be talking about the cliffhangers or the twists. And I mean, you talked about how short my stuff is. I do tend to write very lean and very short books. And that's because I'm impatient. I get bored very easily. I want something fresh. And so the serial format's very good for that. And then also the short books, I can get them done relatively quickly, and then I can be moving on to the next thing. So Bella has been very great. I love it a lot. There's still a lot of chatter in the author world, whether or not it's going to stick around, because Amazon can, they change their mind sometimes, and they're like, maybe, I don't know how they feel that it's doing. I feel like it's doing great. I've definitely found a lot of my readers through Bella. So I hope it sticks around. I don't know how long Hot Vampire will go on. I don't really have an end date as of right now, but I'm enjoying the world and I'm enjoying the characters. So I would love to continue to release them as episodes, then box them up into books.
Yeah. I was going to ask you this, and you segued right into it.
Yeah.
I love that your books are lean and they're shorter.
Good. Yay.
I think you have a real niche for that. Like, I think you've got like a niche market. Like, people love it. We are, yeah, we like, a lot of us like series that are like, 10 books, 600 pages long, whatever. But that's a commitment, and for your books, like, you can get them, like, you could read the Demon King. You can read actually Hot Vampire Next Door too. Shoot.
Yeah.
You can read all of them over a weekend,
Yeah.
like, you can read on a Sunday afternoon. Like, you have a Sunday afternoon free. All right, let me go check out this new book from Nikki. And then like, and they're like gripping page turning, and I think the Vella format makes Hot Vampire Next Door even better, because like when you're doing an episode and you're focusing on making it interesting to hook someone in for the next episode, I think it makes the whole book like a major page turner, because you're just like flying through it.
Yeah. I think I learned a lot about building tension, writing like short format for Vella specifically. And I mean, Hot Vampire is its own thing, and the structure is a little bit different than my typical thing. But when I started writing Never King, and I was like, usually I shoot to have 55,000 words. That's like my sweet spot. But then I started writing Never King, and I'm like, I think this is going to be shorter than that. It ended up being around 42,000. My most common complaint from readers is that it's not long enough. And everybody's like, the next one going to be longer? Is it going to be longer? And I'm like, I don't know. I want to give people more to sink their teeth into, but I also feel like the fact that they're left wanting more is part of the magic, I guess. You know, like it is a shorter read, but you can, like you said, you can read it quickly. So like you can consume it very, very quickly in a couple of hours. And that is part of why it's so much fun, I think, because you are left wanting a little bit more. I know that for readers, that seems to be the biggest complaint.
No, but it's okay. We want to want more because we want to read. That's great. I love that.
Yeah. I do think that I will continue to write on the shorter side. I'm never gonna be the author that writes 300-page books. I don't think I've ever done that in any of the books I've ever written. I think Ruthless Demon King is my longest one, which is like 58,000 words.
Yeah.
So if you want some longer work from me, read my Demon King series.
And I'm in the middle of the third book right now, and I'm loving it. And and you said it was the last. It's like the last book of their main story, right? The third book.
Yeah. So the main like story arc and my original plan was for 3 books. So the story is wrapped up on book 3, but we probably will go back for some. I'll probably write some novellas, so even shorter than like Never King, probably like 30,000 words. Hot Vampire length would be what I would probably do if I wrote some more in that world.
Right.
Marie said length means nothing if you aren't satisfied.
That's true. I love that.
Oh my
God. Talking about in the chat how Vella isn't in the UK yet, but all that stuff is on your Patreon.
Yeah, my Patreon started as a place for me to post episodes for international readers because of that. And I don't know if they're going to expand it globally yet. We haven't heard anything. So yeah, if you are an international reader and you want to read Hot Vampire with the Vella, so, season 3 at this point is what we're on. Episodes go up on Patreon. And in fact, Patreon usually gets them before Vella does, because Vella takes forever to approve an episode. Because I am still writing live. I keep saying I'm going to try to get ahead and schedule, because if I can schedule them, they'll release at like midnight, like without fail. I can't get ahead. I'm trying. I'm not quite there yet.
Well, so the person who asked that, and I'm going to give her a shout out, is Carrie Gray, because she's in the UK, and she was messaging me today saying, I'm going to stay up. I'm staying up so I can watch it. I'm staying up. So I told her I'd give her a little
what time is it there? It must be really late. What?
It's pretty late. It's like 5. Yeah, it's 5 or 6 hours. Yeah. So
well, thank you for coming.
But let's Holly, if you want to hit some of the comments there, from the live, I think, or have you already?
They're coming up. There's so much love about, like, Never King, and like the length is perfect. Like it doesn't matter if it was 700 pages or 200. Like no one can put it down.
Excellent. That makes me
and then thank you for releasing Bran into the public.
Of course, that was my pleasure.
Who's your favorite MMC?
Oh gosh.
I didn't have that on my. I just that came off the top of my head. I didn't like.
I know. Well, okay. Probably.
That's so mean of me.
All for different reasons. Probably Vane would be my number one. Bran my number two, and then Damien and Wrath would be like tied for three. I mean, I love the twins too. I don't know. My answer might change tomorrow.
You love them all. They're all great.
Love them all. Yeah.
You have a way with writing MMCs. You're very talented.
Why choose? Well,
why choose? Yes. So did you? I know for sure there's a question from Amy Reynolds. She was wondering if you always knew that Never King was going to be an RH.
Yes. The whole Peter Pan, Peter Pan and the Lost Boys, I knew that would make the perfect RH. I've never written RH. This is my first one. I've read a lot and I love it because of the whole why choose. I'm greedy in that way, I guess. So I'm like, Peter Pan, I've always loved the darkness of Peter Pan, like the original book. Like Peter Pan was an asshole. And so I knew that he would make a perfect villain. And the Lost Boys were kind of wild and reckless. And so RH was always going to be an RH.
That's awesome. Okay, so do we want to go back to that door question? So I have a bunch of questions that I've gathered from the group, and I know we have questions on the comments. Do you want to go back to the door question? Because I kind of like away from that. Or
what was the question? Will there be more door scenes?
Yes, lots of requests for more doors.
Okay.
More teasing, more tension.
Okay. Yeah, I'd have to think about how I could do that. Because Bran's been invited into a lot of places. Unless it's just about, part of what's great about that scene is that Bran can't join in. And obviously for somebody who has control issues, that's pretty...
He's very controlling, which is
He
great.
is, which I love. I mean, that's my favorite. I will continue to write MMCs who are very controlling and possessive. That's just I love it. So
yeah.
You can always expect that type of thing from my characters.
That's awesome. And it also maybe the whole door scene. And not only that, like in Never King 2, like your women are so empowered, like they're I love that about it. And I've got a lot of feedback where people tell me like, Winnie, from Never King or Jesse, like they're all like, they're just like, Jesse's like, I got toys and and then Winnie is like, Wendy whore, whatever, I don't care, I own up to it, and it's just so refreshing, right, to get FMCs that are just like all about women empowerment. So, is there anything behind that for you, or anything you want to talk about?
I've talked a little bit about this, like online and on Patreon. Power is a big theme in all of my writing. In all of my worlds, in power, the balance between power, the shifting of power, so like, well, I can't really talk about this yet because it's not even out on Vella, but there is I like seeing the transition. My male characters are always going to be powerful. But as their relationship grows, there has to be a shift in the dynamic. And some of that is emotional or mental. Some of it's actual power, magic or power in some way. So I like playing with that. I like controlling MMCs because, maybe this is only for me, but maybe, I don't know, maybe for other readers too, but I like the strong male characters who are capable and dominant and take control. I like that. But there's got to be some some more, I guess, the shifting of that as the story progresses and the female character becomes more powerful, but he still is controlling in a little bit of a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And a female main character maybe is more powerful, and there's some of that in the Demon King series. I don't want to give away any spoilers, but I love it when the female becomes almost on equal level with the male character by the end. I love that. But obviously when it comes to the bedroom, there's still some of that dominant aggression but at that point, she's part of the power play. I think that's another important thing. She's active in the power play, so you get to enjoy it, but it's like it's all a game and everybody's having fun. So yeah, power is a huge theme in my writing.
Yeah, it's very different from I gotta be careful what I say here. Omegaverse, right? Because it's like with Omegaverse, the woman is submissive outside the bedroom and inside the bedroom. But with yours, it's just inside the bedroom, but outside she's a powerful woman. And
yes,
big difference, right?
Yeah,
and I love that.
I'm loving that. Of the take no shit female main character. We're all on board.
Yeah, it's awesome. Super awesome.
I do love a strong female character. I grew up on Underworld is a great example.
I love Underworld. Kate Beckinsale is so amazing.
I love that.
It's so
I love that series. I will always be there for that, for sure.
Yeah, super awesome. And the other thing I was going to say, and then I'll read a couple questions that I got, is I love at the beginning of the Never King. I don't know why. I was hooked immediately when you did the whole spin on the football and the sexuality. So you were like, he's great at football. How did it go? Yeah, he's great at football. He's crap
bad at sex.
Too bad that I hate football and I love sex. I died. I thought it was hysterical. I went and dropped it in 4 chats I was on at the quote. And I'm like, I ain't reading it, So that was just so clever the way you did that.
That's so funny. There was a TikTok somebody did on that, and it was the first page on her Kindle, and she was talking about that, and it's starting out great or whatever. And it's so funny because that line actually came much further into writing it. It was in revision mode is when I added that. It didn't always open that way. But wow. It's so funny to see what people resonates with people or what they like, because I didn't think much about that. It was just a great way to show who Winnie is, which she likes sex.
Yes,
and she embraces that. Yeah, and I wanted that to be very clear because there's a kind of a delicate situation of she's come to Neverland, she's been kidnapped, and nobody wants to wait for the sex. So I'm like, how am I going to make this happen? And I had that scene with Starla, and I had written that scene before I even wrote The Never King. So I knew that was the sex positive and the prostitutes, that was going to be really big in the book, but I wasn't quite sure how that was going to relate to Winnie. So the football thing came much later, once I kind of embraced that sex positive side of Winnie. So she wasn't always that way. She was a little more, I mean, she is broken, but broken in a way that wasn't, I don't want powerful, I guess. It wasn't one of her strengths. You can be broken and be strong, and that is who Winnie is. And she wasn't that way in the very beginning. I kind of had to be with her a little bit longer to kind of figure out who she was. I like this version of Winnie much, much more.
Yeah. And that's funny. That segues right into a question from Kathleen Gifford. She wants to know if there's anything that can be done to reverse the damage to her from her mom and the Never King. And then also I have more questions. I think Amy was the one who asked, are we going to hear more about what happened, that history there and what was done to her?
Yeah. So there in the Never King, Pan tells Winnie that he took her mom to the lagoon, which can be healing. So that the lagoon can be healing, and I think it could still be for Mary. I don't have a clear plan for Mary, because I'm going to do 3 books. I've got I'm half plotter, half pantser, where I like to have kind of a roadmap, but I also like to have some things that are open. So
Mhm.
I don't really know yet what's going to happen to Mary. I have some ideas, and Mary is, I don't think this will be too much of a spoiler. Mary is based, she's like a symbol of the Neverbird from Peter and Wendy from the original book. So if you've read the original book, there's a scene where Peter helps save the Neverbird and her eggs. So there's some symbolism there in Mary and Winnie. It'll come out a little bit more in book 2. Like we'll touch base on it a little bit. So she could, I don't know, she might come back to Neverland. I don't know. We'll see.
Cool. That's neat that there's some symbolism there. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have Amelia Potter wants to know if we'll get a background or maybe a side snippet of Vane's backstory. So it looks like we have a Vane fan. I've heard a lot about Vane from people. People like Vane. They're like the dark, broody guy, you know?
Oh yeah.
So
I love the dark, broody guy. So Vane does have a very big role in book 2. And so yeah, we'll hear more about his backstory. And there's another connection for Vane that I think you guys will like. So that's really all I can say about it.
Okay.
There's gonna be, yes, there'll be more Vane, more of his backstory. He's gonna be he'll play a bigger role in book 2, and then we'll also get the Winnie Vane scene that everybody's asking for. So yes, we'll get all that.
Awesome. Sierra, I don't know how to say your last name, Skelt maybe. She just finished Hot Vampire Next Door. Wants to know if it'll stick with Jesse's point of views or if you'll do some other point of views in future books.
We do get Bran's POV, but I'm trying to think if it's in book 2. It must not be. So, okay, yes.
I don't know. I feel like I've read it. Is it not in book 2? What do you?
Bran gets a POV episode between like 32 and 33, I think it is. And I wrote it as a bonus for Bran. Yeah, I wrote it as a bonus, and I gave it away to newsletter subscribers. So, and I think we had a conversation about this on Patreon. We were like, should we do more Bran? And everybody on Patreon was like, yes, I like hearing from him. So I started adding him. It must be book 3 is when it really picks up. So it would be season 3. He gets, I mean, it's not half and half, it's not 50-50, but he definitely gets more episodes in season 3. And that will continue. Yeah. But probably not anybody else. It'll probably only be Bran and Jesse.
Okay, cool. All right, we have a lot of questions from Amy Reynolds. Let me sorry, Amy, I'm going to go to Nikki's group questions first, and then we'll scoot back to you. Let's see here. From your group, Nikki, your Facebook group. Okay, so I don't know if we already covered this, about Patron a little bit, explaining what that is, if it's going to be available in the UK. And how many books you have of Hot Vampire Next Door. We know that's open-ended. You said that already.
Yeah.
Anything else that we want to say about that, or did we cover it, you think?
A question I'm getting a lot lately is when will book 3 come out? So I'm finishing up season 3 right now on Vela. I think it'll take 2 more episodes to finish up kind of like the story arc for season 3. And I believe they'll go live this week. I'm in the middle of, in the beginning really of episode 32, or not 32, 52. So if I can get those done and live this week, then book 3 will release probably beginning of May. So that will be ebook, paperback, KU.
Okay.
So cool. For those people who aren't reading on Vela, that's when we'll probably see book 3.
Okay. So I was double dog dared to ask you a question.
No.
I'm just going to do it. There was an eggplant emoji after the question, just as a hint. Will Hook and Pan cross swords?
I get this question a lot. And
I feel like I need more wine for this one. I'm going in. I'm going in.
When I first started talking about the book before it was released, I got a lot of questions about crossing swords, and I didn't know that was a thing that people wanted. And so I'd already had a plan for the book at that point, and crossing swords was not in it. And Hook is, an adversary for Pan, so that wasn't anything that I was gonna change in like the Never King series. But I will say that I have a plan for Hook, because everybody's asking for more of Hook.
Yes.
And I think there will be a Hook standalone, and it'll be a throuple, and there will be crossing swords, and it will be Hook, a darling, and then a third character who you will be familiar with from the Neverland world. But I don't want to say who, because it's kind of a little bit of a twist on the original story. So I think that I say that now, and I'm probably going to regret saying that because it's not even a thing yet. I have to finish the Pan series first. So it will be further down the line, probably the fall. I think it would be a standalone, so nobody has to wait for cliffhangers or anything. But that is the plan as of right now. So crossing swords, yes, I will embrace the crossing swords. That's what people want.
You're like, I dare you to ask her. I'm like, okay, I'll ask her.
I get that question a lot, so that's totally cool.
All right, cool, awesome. Holly, I have your questions next. Do you want me to ask them for you, or do you remember what they are? You probably don't.
No, you go ahead.
Will we get to see more of Pan and Lost Boys past their pasts in the Dark One? So like the history.
Yeah, a little bit. Pan will probably always be a little vague because it's never really clear where he comes from in the original book. It said that he ran away as a baby, like basically jumped out of the cradle and ran away and was raised by fairies. And I like that. I like that you're never really sure like where he came from or who he is or what his story is. So Pan will probably continue to be a little unknown. But the rest of them, yes, we will definitely hear more about where Vane came from, his whole story, and then the twins too. The twins we'll hear a lot more from them too, because they've got a whole. They need to assume their power too. So, yes.
Awesome. And then Holly also had, I feel funny asking your questions for you, Holly. Do you plan on more dark fairy tale retellings?
Oh yes. Oh my gosh. I might get in trouble for this too, because I want to talk about the stuff I'm really excited about, but it gets me in trouble because then people are like, when are you going to write that thing? And I'm like, I don't know. I've been having this whole conversation. My husband helps me when it comes to plotting, so like I'll run things past him. So we just had this conversation about a week ago. Because I do think fairy tale retellings are in right now. I think they'll continue to be in. I mean, they're a lot of fun, and it's been a lot of fun for me writing them. So a Cinderella retelling that's our age, where the stepmother and stepsisters are stepfather and stepbrothers. So very, very twisted, very taboo. I love the whole daddy thing. Like, I'm just gonna embrace that, okay? I know some people hate the daddy thing. I love the daddy thing. And I want to write a daddy PNR. So that's on my wish list. In fact, if you go back into my TikTok archives, you will see that I've been wanting to write a daddy PNR for a very long time. And the age gap thing, I love that. And the original Cinderella, the Grimm's Cinderella, it's not a fairy godmother, it's a tree. It's like a wishing tree. So I really like that. I think that's really cool. Instead of doing the whole fairy godmother thing, this wishing tree, I haven't figured out all the plot details yet, but that's kind of where I'm thinking I'm going to go next. I don't know. If people hate that idea, feel free to tell me. I have plenty of books that I need to write or I want to write. So
the immediate response was, I just fell more in love with you. Oh my God, everything taboo. This sounds amazing. Sign me up. I'm here for all your books.
Excellent. That makes me very happy. Because I really do want to write it. I think it would be a lot of fun. I love forbidden and taboo. So I think the whole daddy thing is the perfect scenario. And Credence. I mean, let's talk about Credence. I loved Credence. I wanted more of the whole taboo. I mean, you know, in that book it was step uncle and cousins, but the stepbrother stepfather thing is kind of the same thing. So that would be a little bit of my inspiration with Credence for Cinderella retelling. So yeah, I'm glad.
The group is definitely they're jazzed. They're like, okay, awesome. When?
I know that's
and we're here along for the ride. You just do whatever you want to ride. We are here.
Do whatever I want. Okay, all right. I like that. I like the freedom.
For sure.
Yay.
For sure. Okay, so Amy has Amy's on the chat too, but she's a huge fan of yours. I don't like she has so many questions. So let's see here. What can I talk? Well, actually, let's talk about you a little bit. Like we've been talking about the books, but let's talk about you. You know, like how did you start writing? How long have you been writing? What series do you have out there? Do they relate to one another? Is there a reading order? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I definitely need to work on a reading order. Oh, it's a kitty cat.
It's like pet time. I have mine right here. You know, pet time. There's
I locked my cats out because I knew they would make too much trouble. So I know it probably seems like I went from 0 to 60. That's not the case, you know. And I like to be very transparent about this so that nobody, if you're a writer and you're wanting to write and publish, it's very hard to see somebody have success and think that they found that overnight and it's so easy for them. Why isn't it for me? I have been writing and publishing for 20 years under various names. I got my start very early on ghostwriting for Scholastic. It was the series pitched as Gilmore Girls meets Desperate Housewives, and it was YA, obviously. You know, Scholastic's for children. That taught me a lot. That was a lot of fun. That would have been like 2005, 2006. Then I had my daughter, took a little bit of time off, and then I come from YA, so I was very much into YA as a reader, as a writer. I loved it. I didn't know that there could be anything better, such as steamy romance, but we'll get to that. I wrote a YA series that was very like Jason Bourne-ish, you know, genetically altered assassins. I got my lit agent with that series. We sold that series. So I come from a traditional background. So I was published like Little Brown, Penguin. I wrote a post-apocalyptic like robot, futuristic middle grade series, which was a lot of fun. And then traditional publishing can be kind of fickle. So it's not something where you can just bust your butt and you will grow and grow and grow. Sometimes, for whatever reason, it no longer wants you. And it's about sales, and it's about, you know, how many followers you have on Instagram or whatever. And I kind of got a little jaded after a while, you know, like I had a book canceled because the sales for the first one weren't that great. And there was a point where I thought that I was going to quit writing and publishing. I didn't have nothing was panning out, and I couldn't seem to finish a book. And so there was kind of like that dark night of the soul when it comes to like writing and publishing. And then in 2018, I reconnected with a friend who had also been a YA writer, and she had been published traditionally very similar story. She couldn't sell anything after that, and she switched to indie romance, and she was doing really well, and she's like, let me show you what I'm doing and see if it's something that you might enjoy doing. And so she shared more about like steamy romance, and I was like, what is this? This is amazing. Because romance has always been the biggest genre, but steamy, spicy romance was just kind of like, finding its footing. And so I started writing paranormal romance right away through her. So she was publishing me through like her indie press. And I really enjoyed it, but I wasn't quite like, it wasn't still right. I fell back in love with writing, and I was writing a lot of stuff very quickly, which I hadn't done in a very long time. But I was like, I still feel like something's not quite right. And then that was when I finally realized that I love villains and I should embrace that. The bad boys, like coming from traditional YA, there's this whole like cliche of the bad boys, like those characters aren't worth anything because they're such a cliche. And so I kind of turned my back on it a little bit and just pretended like I didn't love that absolutely with all my heart. So once I kind of like embraced that, and I decided that was what I really wanted to be doing, is when it all finally started to click for me. So Nikki St. Crowe is a new pen name. She started publishing in June of 2021. So she really, I say she, me, she's the pen name is she and me. It really is the right fit for me, who I am as a person. The books that are coming out now are me, and it's finally started to feel like the right thing. It's not just writing what's popular or writing what I think will sell. It's everything that I love as a reader and a writer. Those bad boys and the power exchange and all of that stuff. Now, the series that I did write, like with my friend, I just negotiated buying back the rights to one of those series. So I don't want to share that name because I'm going to re-edit that series, because it's kind of like, I've changed a lot since then. So I would like to edit it a little bit, and I'm going to put new covers on it because the covers do not match what the series is. So those will come out this year. I'll recover them, edit them, and re-release them. It's a 5-book series about Jinn. It's like this family of super powerful Jinn brothers.
Awesome.
So one of my favorite series. I love that. So my publishing company now is called I'm going to tell you, it's called Blackwell House. If you look up Blackwell, you'll probably find it on Amazon because it's still up, but it'll come down soon because I'll get the rights back.
Right. Wow, what a journey. And some people are saying, thank God you didn't quit. Like, because
oh my gosh, when I look back at that, I can't imagine quitting. I mean, I probably would have came back to it regardless of what journey I took. But yeah, I mean, most creative people probably have some ups and downs, and that's just part of the process. So
right. Cool. Yeah. All right. So we have a few more questions about Never King. Let's see here. I've asked you all of those. Okay. Okay. So quoting to all the girls who have grown up hard and fast. Were you inspired by anyone in particular? Or is it just kind of what we've already been talking about with empowering women?
Yeah, that is me. That girl is me. And I, as you get older and you start seeing a therapist, because everybody should see a therapist, you start to realize, well, for me anyways, that maybe the things you thought were normal actually weren't. And, I look back on my childhood, and I always had a roof over my head, and we always had food on the table. So I don't want to talk negatively about my parents, but they were young and they were partiers, and it was a nonstop party. And just to give you an idea of like, I talk about this. I've talked about this online. I was a teen mom. I was pregnant at 15. You know, I had my son at 16, but I was barely 16. And the reason why I was a teen mom was because my parents let my boyfriend move in with us and live in my bedroom. Like, that's the type of thing that we're I look back on it now, I'm like, it's so ridiculous.
Wow.
So I think for me that you know, that is what that is. To all the girls who had to grow up hard and fast. And some people have crazy, horrible childhoods, and that doesn't necessarily mean that the rest of your life is going to be crazy and horrible. So that was kind of like, to me, to the teenage me, you know, because my teenage years were horrible and horrendous. And then when I think back to that person, it seems like somebody else, because I'm, you know, my husband has helped me give me like a stable life. Like, if you believe in the zodiac signs, I'm an Aries, so I'm like, yeah, I'm a fire sign. I'm full of like passion and spontaneity, and he's a Capricorn, so he's an earth sign. He's very stable, and we talk about that a lot, about how he's been like the stable force in my life. I was pretty young as well when we met. We were 19, and at that point I had a 3-year-old. So like, the fact that he was willing to stick around it still amazes me. But so yeah, you know, that is me. And there's a lot of Winnie in me too. I was talking about FMCs with a reader when it comes to like the young FMCs, you know, where she's like, especially with age gap, you know, somebody who's naive or too young and shouldn't be in that scenario. And for me, Winnie is very young, but she's very old. You know, she's growing up very quickly. And so that's what that is. You know, she might only be 18, but she's already lived a whole life in that amount of time because she had to grow up so quickly.
Yeah. Oh, that's an amazing story. That's just.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, it's just like, you know, you know, whenever anyone has challenges, and especially at such a young age, and to overcome them and become successful, it's just amazing. It shows you that you can do anything, you know.
Exactly. So. Yes. And that's why I love talking about that stuff. You know, I don't want it to, when we're online, it's easy for it to look like a perfect life. And, you know, on Instagram, all your images are perfect. And
yeah,
for it to feel like, why can't I have that life?
Right.
It's not, you know, I try to be very transparent with who I am and where I came from, because I don't want it to ever seem like it's perfect, you know?
Yeah.
And being a teen mom is probably one of the things I'm most proud of, because you know, sometimes I look back and I'm like, I shouldn't be where I am now. I don't know how the heck I survived that. I don't know, somehow, by some sheer force of will, I guess.
But by you opening up and being transparent, you're such an inspiration. You really are. Like, you're helping so many people, you know? So that's just really cool. Like, a lot of people take the other, you know, path and kind of stay quiet, but that's really cool that you're just open about it. So
thanks. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Lydia said that real and relatable.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Oh, that means so much to me.
Yeah.
That really does.
You said Marie said that? Marie Jones?
Lydia.
Oh, Lydia said that. Oh, Lydia, I love Lydia. You're big fans too. Lydia, and I think Marie's on the comments too. Marie as well. Both of them love you so much.
That means a lot. Thank you.
Oh. Okay, so this is I don't know if you can tell us this or not. I don't know if this is a spoiler for Never King. But the question is, can anyone hold a shadow? For instance, I think this has got to be a spoiler. Could Winnie take in the dark shadow of Peter's island and be the dark shadow of Pan's light one? I mean, come on, that's got to be a spoiler. I don't know if you're in trouble, girl.
Well, okay, so I will go back to what I said earlier, that Mary and Winnie are symbols of the Neverbird and the lagoon. So in book 1, Pan does tell Winnie that he brought her mom to the lagoon, which has its own power. So that's all I'll say.
Okay. All right. I had to go there. Where for Hot Vampire Next Door? We're running out of time here. Actually, let's. I'm going to. Okay, we'll ask this real quick. Where does Midnight Harbor exist? Is it an actual place?
Well, not in reality. It's not. It's made up place, but it's like New England, like northeastern United States. It's the way I have it in my head is that it's a city that is kind of protected or isolated by magic. So like you can get to it, but you have to know where you're going to get to it, kind of thing. I mean, Mystic Falls, you know, like it's very isolated in what it is, and it's full of supernatural creatures. So kind of like that. There was some of that in Midnight Harbor for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you have any? This is from me. Do you have any plans to write different genres, or have you already? And it sounds like you kind of already answered that a little bit before.
Yeah, I have written a lot of other genres, but I think I'll probably stick with paranormal romance or fantasy romance from now on. Maybe contemporary romance somewhere down the line, but I really have. There are too many books I want to write that are paranormal, so I don't think not anytime soon.
Would you consider the books like the Never King, Hot Vampire Next Door, the Demon King? Are those all in your mind paranormal romance, or what do you consider them?
Yeah, paranormal or fantasy. I think Never King is a little more fantasy than it is paranormal, but yeah, all in those genres.
Okay, and then I think a good question to leave with, and we'll just have to have you back. How's that sound?
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, especially as the other books come out. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we would love that. This has been awesome.
Yeah.
So we talked about like how you that this wasn't overnight, right? Like you've been working for a long time. However, you have been blowing up like crazy. So 6 months, right? Like just So like how has that been? Like I mean, is your messenger blowing up? Are you being like called like crazy? Are people like bugging you? Like what's like how's it how have you been feeling? Has it been amazing? You know, just because we like we love to see people succeed, right? And you're like gold right now. So we want to experience it with you, you know? So just
I mean, obviously it's amazing. I've been in this industry for a very long time, so to see some traction is great because obviously you want people to read your stuff. And but it still blows my mind that this is where we're at. And I mean, I definitely, get a lot of messages and comments on TikTok, and it's all surreal for sure. Because it did kind of happen overnight. I would say Hot Vampire and Never King are probably what really made it happen overnight. The Demon King series started releasing last fall, and it was, I mean, it was great. It sold really well, and people started reaching out, but it was primarily Hot Vampire and Never King. And I had a feeling that Never King probably would do, people would like it. It would resonate with people. Because I knew fairy tales were in, and this was my darkest thing so far. I kind of like took the chains off basically and embraced all the things that I really love about, like, calling Winnie a horror. I like that stuff. And I know it's not for everybody, but I think there are a lot of people who are enjoying it right now, like the darker, filthier stuff.
Yes. Because it's not predictable. It's not the same thing we've read over and over again. And it gets us emotional.
I love it. I love it too. Stuff. And when you pair that with something that is familiar, so Peter Pan is familiar to a lot of people, so I had a feeling that it would probably people would want to check it out and it would be popular, I guess. I did not know that it would be the way it is, and that is still surprising me and blowing my mind. So it's been great. I'm very happy with the response, obviously, and it just means that the things that I love and that I've been putting a lot of time and energy into are the right things. You know, the fact that people have responded to it and are enjoying it and want more. And like you said, the short books, like I love writing short. And I know, and you know, I can remember having this conversation with my agent years ago, and I'm like, I want to write short books. And she's like, there's not really a market for that. And I'm like, but I think there is, because the way we live our lives now, it's our time is limited and everybody's busy. And the fact that you can sit down and read something very quickly, for me anyways, I love feeling like I've been productive because I've read that book in 2 hours and I'm done.
Yes, it's great.
So,
well, you know, I think that it's fantastic.
yeah.
So you're fantastic.
Yeah.
We love you. We're so excited that you did this tonight.
Well, thank you for inviting me and setting it all up and organizing all of it.
Yes, we'll have to do another one when your other releases come out for sure.
Yeah, that sounds great. I would love that.
Getting to talk to you in person is amazing.
It is amazing. We've been fangirling, and other people have been fangirling through us. Like they're like, "Oh, we're so excited for you guys!" You know, it's so cool.
Well, I love that. I love you all.
Oh, well, we love you too. Well, thank you so much for your time. We'll go ahead and sign off.
Okay.
And we'll schedule something in the near future. I don't know when.
That
we'll
sounds
figure it out.
good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.